August 25th to September 18th, 2021, two seismic events were spotted on Mars. It is known as marsquakes, and this has become one of the largest quakes ever recorded on our solar system. It also triggers seismologists to figure out why such events occurred in a relatively relevant period of time. In November 2018, a mission called InSight Lander from NASA started its discoveries to Mars, the next door planet near to Earth. InSight Lander was created to study the inner structure of Mars. It carried the ever-desired sensitive seismometer along the way to the planet, so as to help analyze the occurrence of the possible seismic events. The arrival of this mission has now opened our eyes to see many events occurring on Mars. Take a look.
The basic idea of InSight is to map out the deep structure of Mars. We know a lot about the surface of Mars, we know a lot about its atmosphere, and even about its ionosphere, but we don't know very much about what goes on a mile below the surface, much less 2,000 miles below the surface down to the center. And this will be the first mission that's going to Mars specifically to investigate the deep inside of Mars.
We know that the Earth is habitable, we know that Mars is not. There might be something that we find out in terms of the structure of Mars versus the structure of Earth that maybe can help us understand why that is.
InSight carries a seismometer which measures the seismic waves that have traveled through Mars from marsquakes and maps out the deep interior structure of Mars.
We're going to also have a heat flow and physical properties probe, which will penetrate into the Mars surface about 5 meters or 16 feet to take the temperature of Mars.
And it has a radio science experiment which uses the radio on the spacecraft to measure small variations in the wobble of Mars's pole to understand more about the structure and composition of the core.
The seismic events occurred on the 25th of August 2021 was the first marsquake called S0976A, which was of magnitude 4.2. Scientists assume that it was originated in the Valles Marineris, one of the largest canyons on Mars. There are many seismic events occurred in this area of the planet. Some scientists also call this a graben system because it has lower fault block when compared to other locations. Faults and landslides can be seen at this valley as well. 24 days later, the second marsquake was detected. Seismologists named this S1000A. At this time, although its magnitude 4.1 seemed slightly smaller than the previous event, the spectrum and duration of it lasted for over 94 minutes. Which makes it the longest ever recorded seismic event. Other than that, its exact location remains unknown. Both seismic events occurred in an area where InSight cannot detect P and S waves, which are the two main types of pressure waves on Earth, and that is called a seismic shadow zone on Mars. Researchers focused on these seismological events situated on the planet and what seems to be PP and SS waves. These seismic waves can help them know about the direction of a quake on the surface of Mars and review the differences between the first and the second seismic events. Now let's see what it's like to be the earthquake, the moonquake, and marsquake. Let's see from this video.
So let's start with what we know, which is an earthquake. An earthquake from Switzerland takes 30 seconds and has very clear onsets, as we'll see.
So this Swiss quake, we'll start with the P wave that you feel there, and then in a few seconds we'll hear the S wave arrival, slightly bigger. So that's the classic type of wave arrivals that we were hoping to see on InSight.
Next thing is one step more exotic, which is the moon. So we load a moonquake into our system and see how that feels.
This is the SP recording it, so there's no...
Yeah, is there an error ended on that?
Yes. Slowly getting bigger.
The signal is very different. We have a much smaller attenuation of the seismic waves, but at the same time we have a very strong scattering, which means that the shaking will go on for tens of minutes or maybe up to an hour.
Next thing we'll load into the system are the marsquakes, which were discovered by the Marsquake service recently. We want to know how they feel on the scale between the Earth on one side and the Moon on the other side.
On Mars, we so far have seen two families of quakes, and so there's a higher frequency one, and this one that we experienced now was more the low frequency version. We think this is probably pretty far away. The motions that we have here are amplified by a huge factor so that we can even see them, because on Mars the amplitudes are extremely low.
InSight's seismometer, or known as seismic experiment for interior structure, does not only gather seismic data about the nature of Mars, but also offers further insightful refinement into the constraints of Mars' crust, mantle, and core structure as well. It's Tony Hans reports.